Welcome to another episode of Slamdown Vlogs. Today we're going to talk about the misuse of a wrestler. Now this is going to be part of a series. Each part's going to be about a different wrestler. Today I want to talk about Bram. So for the first episode of this series, I'm going to be talking about Bram for the reasons because Bram started off hot. He was tagging with Magnus when he made his debut. He was sort of known as the Chesterfield Play. We didn't know much about him, but as they tagged more, we saw more of the dark side of Bram. The extreme, the hardcore side. Eventually, he split from Magnus, attacking Magnus with, I think it was a pool cube that he hit Magnus with. Also went on to attack Mickie James as well, which at the time Magnus wasn't too happy with going that far, but went with it anyway. But it did end up with Magnus and Mickie James leaving the company, and then he had some good matches with Abyss. He was getting Stone Cold was talking about him, JR was talking about him. He was coming to be one of the top guys. We've seen him tag with Gunnar and floating around. I'd say sort of floating around the mid card, but his popularity was growing and growing with the wrestling community and within other wrestlers being talked about. So, from that, you thought he was going to get a push to the main title. But no. In time, they ended up trying to get Bram to be part of Decay, as Bram rejected Rosemary, and then Decay kidnapped him, he disappeared. Then he came back under a group called the DCC, with James Storm, who was fired by Billy Corgan. And James Storm returned, saying, they're trying to remember the name of the DCC now, because it was always DCC. They never really said the full name. It was Destruction Crew. Anyway, it's not important. Rolled around with them. They were sort of looking like Anonymous with the white masks. Eventually, the mask came off. We saw it was Kingston. We saw it was Bram. And we saw it was James Storm. Now, they were pushed heavily. They went against Decay and other teams and doing quite well. Then Kingston started making mistakes. They started losing matches. James Storm turned on them. He had the argument with Kingston. Bram tried to break it up. Ended up with the team splitting. And that's really it. James Storm came back as the cowboy. Kingston and Bram, we haven't really seen. I still don't even know if Kingston's with the company. We've heard nothing from him. We do know Bram was on tour. I think it was Noah he was doing work with for this tag team tournament with Robbie E. And then he got in trouble for lying in the freezer, which to me I thought was hilarious. But, the Japanese are slightly different. It's a different culture. But, he got in trouble for that. And we haven't really seen much of him. We know he's been doing a lot of indie bookings, but we haven't seen him much of TV-wise or at the Impact tapings. Now, it feels like it's creative haven't got anything for him. To me, Bram's an easy one. You put Bram back as the Chesterfield Play. There's two scenarios Impact could go with this. First, I'm going to give you the tag team scenario. Because Bram's been off TV, he needs to be rebuilt. So, why not put him with Kingston? Because Kingston can go extreme. He's hardcore, so is Bram. So, you could have them come in to the Impact Zone. Let's say you've got a tag match going on. They come in, they take out both teams, putting them through tables, calling carnage. Absolute carnage. And then that way you're pushing Bram back up and you're pushing Kingston back up. Build them up. Probably get a tag team title reign under their belts. And then do the split. Where you can have Bram cutting a promo that I'm not carrying anybody anymore. I do this alone. I'm the Chesterfield Plague. And I don't need no lack. Really go really dark with him. And then have him go on the solo run. Maybe push for the Grand Championship or even the main title. Playing that extreme character that Bram can play. For people, when Bram was at his best is when he's had that long beard. He was dark. You know, he wore the top that said the dark side. You know, he had that gimmick locked down. It was popular. That's one way they could go with this. Or you can have him go against the Authority. Now, the way you do this is you have Bram come out, attack either Alberto, you know, one of the good guys that gets on with the Authority. And you can have him cut a promo saying, you know, Authority doesn't know what to do with me. They don't know how to control me. And it's time. I don't care what the Authority think. The Chesterfield plague is here. I'm back. And I deserve to be on top. So you can go either two directions with Bram. And that's the point. Bram has got a lot of potential. Now, I think not using him on Impact is definitely a misuse. And another reason it's a misuse because Bram is, you know, like I said, when he was playing the Chesterfield play and playing this dark character, he was on top. You know, to me, he was one of the top guys there. He was one of the best performers and one of the best on the mic. You know, the whole presence he had at that point was amazing. Like I said, Stone Cold Steve Austin was complimenting him. That says it all. One of the top guys in the wrestling business is complimenting Bram. But what did Dixie Carter team, I'm calling Dixie Carter team because it was in Dixie Carter's reign, what did they do? They messed it up. You know, I still can't get round my head why. But there is a third way they can do this. Now, I'm not 100% on this, but the other way is bringing James Mitchell back. Have James Mitchell having his own team, which are Abyss, Bram, Rosemary. Now, I want to say Kingston in there, but you've got to think, you know, James Mitchell's always had those dark side characters, you know, the Abyss, the Monster, you know, Judas at that one point, you know, the Church, you know, so many teams he's managed and used in that dark roles. Bram, at the minute, could be using that dark role. You know, he's wearing the cross upside down. So there's possibilities there. But to me, I don't think it really suits Bram to be in that. I think Bram better going back to the old style of Bram instead of going with the Church and the dark with James Mitchell kind of thing. I don't think that'd probably be the best idea because I think that'd pull away from back Bram. You know, I think Bram should either be carrying Kingston or running on his own. That's what I honestly believe. And I think GFW Impact is letting Bram down. And, you know, I'm a big fan of Bram's. I've always been a big fan, and I really do feel he's being misused. You know, a lot of people have said it, oh, great, he's got nothing for him. There's loads you can do with Bram. Bram hasn't, you know, Bram's only done one thing. You know, take him back to what made him popular, what made him talked about in the wrestling business. Go back to that and build on it. That's what they need to do with Bram. I know this is a bit longer than what I normally do. Normally I like to keep these videos 5 minutes, but I just wanted to throw the scenarios. I couldn't get the O out there. The scenarios, actually, what they could do with Bram, and it's annoying. It really is annoying because I'm going to say, you know, they brought Alberta in, you know, they've brought all these other guys in and they're all getting pushed heavy. Bob Lashley's pushed heavy, but there's a lot of guys that deserve to be on the shows and pushed and they're not. You know, Bram is one of them. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on Bram. Please post it on the comments. And don't forget to keep up with all the new content and keep up with the vlogs and the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And also don't forget to go and like our Facebook page as well to get our live show when we talk about everything. You know, we review Impact, so you get to catch the whole show there. But YouTube is the only place for our vlogs. So I want to say a big thank you for everybody watching, and I'll see you again with part 2.